last week. Just as a quick review, remember, before we can get into database design, we do entity relationship diagrams. All that is the blueprint, right? We talked about an architecture, you kind of need a design. So how do you do a design? You create boxes. A box equals an entity. That box needs to be unique. It's a unique subject matter like student, customer, product, inventory, right? We need a unique ID. That's a primary key. Student ID, product ID, inventory ID. And then we need some additional attributes. What are some descriptors of that inventory? Quantity on hand, reorder point, lead time, student, last name, first name, address. Those are called attributes, okay? We'll eventually convert those entities into a database design, but we also need to talk through the relationships, right? And we talked about relationships. You know, it's kind of like you're dating. Are you, you know, one and only one, you know? Or are you a player, and so you're dating many people, and so you would have the many symbol, right? You always have to have a minimum and a maximum, right? We draw a line between them, and off we go. So again, it consists of entities, boxes, named, singular, relationships. Not every entity has a relationship with each other, so you have to think through the rule, right? And if it does, what's the min and the max? Both sides need the cardinalities. Attributes, descriptors, you need a primary key. Okay. So again, we have a box called department. That's an entity. Department ID is going to be the primary key. And then what are some things we want to know about department? These are kind of basic, right? They're the nouns. Name, location, phone number, it could be square footage, it could be technology, depending on what you're trying to track, right? Advisor, same thing, box, line, title, advisor, employee ID or advisor ID would be the primary key. And then what are some things about the advisor that you want to know, right? And think about how you would create a spreadsheet, last name, first name, email address, etc. And then the same with student. And then you kind of think through the verb in your head to determine if there's a relationship. So, you know, is a department assigned an advisor? No, an advisor is assigned to a department, right? Can a advisor be assigned to many departments? Probably. So that would be many. And what's the minimum? It could be either 1 or 0, depending on what your rule is. Anybody remote. Did you see the article in the paper about COVID reporting in London underreported, I think, by 50,000 records? Anybody see that? Remote? Yeah?
Yeah. It was like there was a whole team of people that were just using Excel spreadsheets, I think.
Yes.
And they couldn't fit the amount of data into Excel. So
absolutely.
It went horribly wrong.
So we learned why you moved to a database. Part 1 was various reporting agencies needed to submit a Microsoft Excel file, CSV or worksheet, to be uploaded to a larger file. You need controls to make sure you don't have duplicate records, right? And in a spreadsheet, that's kind of hard to do. But most importantly, it ran out of space. It couldn't do the merge, and so therefore the numbers were underreported. That's one of the primary reasons you have a database. And then think about this, right? So an entity would be report. Another entity would be agency or department, right? And so we would want a relationship between those two so that when we create a database, we're using the same primary and foreign key relationship so that we have data integrity, right? And we can put it through some tests to make sure that the records are loaded correctly. So I thought that was a live example that supports kind of why we're doing database design. Okay. This is kind of the rule from the book, and I came up with a prettier little graphic. So it describes how you draw the relationship with the min and max, right? The one and only one is the double lines. That's pretty easy, right? So in that particular case, it would be, unless we're Mormons, it would be husband to wife should be one and only one, right? Assuming there's a husband and wife or partner or whatever, okay? One or many, that was pretty easy. An advisor is assigned to many students, right? If it was a many to many on both sides, students can have many different advisors. You would have your concentration advisor and then your general advisor maybe for career counseling or whatever from the UDC. Zero or many has a zero and then the crow's foot. Zero or one is rarely used, and I wouldn't worry about it. So, again, just think about SpongeBob Square. That's an entity. We want to name SpongeBob, whatever the subject matter is. And so we put a line, and then we list the various attributes, things that we want to capture information on. And the first one is always underlined, and that's your primary key, right? Unique identifier. Can the same primary key be used in multiple entities? How many say yes? Raise your hand and maybe I can see you. How many say yes? Well, Adam, you're having a good discussion with yourself. How many say no? How many don't know? Okay, you can only use an entity primary key once. That's what makes it unique. When we get to database design, to bridge the tables together, that becomes a foreign key. We'll go through that again, right? But if you're using the same primary key, it means that your entity is not unique, right? It has overlapping information needs, and therefore you need to break it down. Student ID would only be in the student entity, not in like course, right? There's a relationship that describes students to courses, but you don't need to put that primary key in the entity. Use it once. Easy rule to remember, right? Once I've identified a unique identifier, I'll never use it again in another entity. Questions? Please.
Can't you use it as an attribute, though, like student ID?
Good question. So can I use it as an attribute in the other entity? So I'm not naming it as a primary key, but I want it as a field. No. Keep it pure. When you do the database design, you will use it to link the tables, right? So an entity is only fields or attributes related to that subject matter, right? So you would put student ID perhaps in a advisor entity, right? That's reflected through the relationship. That's how you do it in an entity. Never repeat the same attribute in any other entity. It keeps it really simple. When we get to database design, you're going to do exactly what you said. So if you've done any little database work, you're like, no, That's how I join the tables, absolutely. But this isn't database yet. This is the blueprint. Other questions? Oh, Adam, you're talking to yourself. That's so good.
Wait, Professor?
Oh, you got some sneakers or something.
Yeah, sorry. Well, just a quick question. Is it possible to have multiple primary keys to like identify someone? So if you were to split, like to split someone into like BUID, but then you want to figure out if it's like a student versus a teacher?
This sort of illustrates both the minimum and maximum. The many to many in the book, they use both the crow's foot and they use the symbol N to M. They also use one to N, one to many, right? So there's the written way to do it, but there's also the graphic way. So I wanted to make sure that you understood, if you saw that in the chapter, if you read it, you would see that they refer to both types. It means one and the same. For us, going forward, both the homework, which I moved to next week because I didn't give you pre-notice, as I agreed to do, we're only going to do the drawings. I'm never going to ask you the N to M, right? Because you can look that up pretty easily. On an exam, you're not going to have to draw an entity relationship diagram, but you will have to interpret it. Okay, so this is probably like old hat by now. How do you read this? Let me move this. So a manager is assigned or manages one and only department, and a department has one and only manager, right? An employee works at zero or many resorts, so think about it, especially today with COVID, right? You may be an employee in the database, but the resort is temporarily closed, and so you may have a zero, but once that resort opens, you're one, right? Because you can't split your time between many locations. And a resort can have zero or many employees, or in this case, one or many. Okay, so I'm going to break you into random teams. What I'd like you to do is, one person with this really strong internet, you bring up this slide, and in your email last week, I sent you the patient billing. It's a blank template. What I'd like you to do is draw the cardinalities, right? You can share it when we come back to the class. So you can use Word, or you can just annotate in Word and share, okay? Any questions on this? So these are the rules, but it's also in the email I sent you. It's one Word document. It summarizes the rules as well as has a blank template. So I don't want to do that. All right, see you in about 10 minutes.
What's up, y'all?
Oh, this worked out pretty good this time. If you want to play, you can.
No, I can't. It's strong. All right.
Oh, I can't believe your background.
I'm the moderator.
I might ask our new moderator. Oh, you joined the room.
Yeah, I joined the original room I was in.
It's kind of like a puzzle. At least for you guys, I don't know if this helps.
Sure, yeah, at least for now. So doctor can be scheduled. So doctor. And then I'll get or this book. Appointment is scheduled for the exam. Appointment is this one. Right? Because like if it is an appointment and it's not as per, right? So appointment is doctor. It says exactly what it says doctor.
You guys can annotate it if you want.
Patient.
I mean, wait, can we all edit it? Oh,
I would have posted it. Patient can schedule whatever else class.
no. He pushed back the
I
assignment
think
date.
we're missing like
Yeah.
Yeah, I was able to like submit this time yesterday, so.
I guess it's something like that. So you could have an appointment, and each patient needs to see one doctor. So that's like this one, right? It's like the doctor's the appointment is but like generally speaking,
Bill.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no space to do this in class. Okay, so
The first week is
we
the
have
phys ed, so it's
okay. So a doctor can be scheduled for many appointments.
but like this one above it, I think it's one and then that sounds same. I could.
Yeah. Or if you no,
you can have more than one.
Exactly one. And number two,
schedule exactly one doctor or an appointment cannot be scheduled at all, hence the 1 and 0.
Right.
A patient can schedule one or more appointments, so that shall be. Okay, here's the thing though, like. Okay, yeah, a patient can schedule one or more appointments, but a patient doesn't have to schedule an appointment, so isn't it 0 and 3? Yeah, wait, actually, hold on, let me. Oh shoot, I was muted the whole time. Oh. Wait, yeah, like, okay, so the patient can schedule one or more appointments, but like, but the patient could just not, like, for example, like, you're a doctor and you have patients, but you could just, like, not schedule an appointment with the doctor.
Yeah, so you could interpret that as, so you have to, it's a minimum to be 1 or 0. But you have to reflect the ability to schedule many. Because if you do it as 1 and only 1 or 0 and 1, that means the patient can only schedule one appointment and then they're kicked out of the system.
Wait, sorry, can you repeat that again? That's what's going on here.
So for the minimum, it could be 0 or 1, right? The patient can schedule no appointments,
Right.
or they could schedule 1 as a minimum. But the maximum has to be many.
Yes, of course.
Otherwise, after they do the schedule, they'll never be able to do another one.
Right, so you could do the 0 and crow's foot, right?
Yes,
Okay.
I would accept 0. I did 1, but a 0 would make sense.
Okay, because it's just like how like one appointment is scheduled with exactly one patient. But like I was also thinking, so like it goes
So-
from appointment to patient.
So on that one, right, appointment with patient, think about time period. It's a calendar block. So it has to be a 1 and only 1, otherwise you're gonna have 2 people in the same room getting an exam.
Right. Oh, because if you have the appointment, then it's okay. Then only okay.
Right?
Yeah, no. Because I was also thinking, I was maybe thinking like, oh, like it could be 1 or 0, because like an appointment could be associated with 1 and only one patient and it's already made, or if there's no appointment made, then it's not related to the patient.
So the minimum could be, again, you're thinking, it could be 0, which means it's an empty time period,
Yeah.
and the max would be 1.
Yeah.
Either way,
Okay. This is what
your
I was
thinking is right.
Okay, cool.
So they would have specified that.
Okay. To be honest, guys, I thought I was like talking for like the past like 10 minutes, but I just spoke with the professor DeFronzo, and I got some little stuff clarified. But sorry, as I was doing the work for the ERD, I thought I was talking, but I was muted, so my bad. So I think for a patient schedule one, so you can interpret that as a 1-to-1 ratio, or a 0-to-1 ratio, because technically a patient can just not stay
Okay.
like, you know what I'm saying? You could be like those idle patients. So either answer works. He says he accepts both. But the way how I think it is
How's your team doing?
and then likewise, you have the one appointment is scheduled for exactly one patient. You can also have a 1-to-1 ratio or a 0-to-1. You can accept both.
So you really do get it.
Because you know you have a 0-20 because like if it's an empty time block, then it's not associated with any patient. There's no appointments associated with any. So it's like both answers still work, you know.
They're pretty crap companies, so it's not one of them. It says some patients for sure.
Oh, I know.
Patients.
Someone already did it. So it's
And then what is this?
Bill. So I think
Not scheduled.
it's basically the same thing, but I want to do it for a latter option, like a bill is generally by one appointment. I want to do the 1-to-1 ratio, just because I think it's clear for me. Because the thing is that like, if you have an appointment, then only like the bill only exists because of the appointment. Therefore, the bill is not needed if an appointment doesn't exist. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of confusing, but I mean 0-to-1, 1-to-1 ratio is like here. So I mean, I don't know. If someone wants to change that, you can change it. I agree. Likewise, others. Sure. Oh, oops, that's not it. Sorry.
I can attempt to draw it out, but it's not a good idea.
Okay, it looks like everybody's back. Who wants to share their screen and we can walk through the diagram? I'm not sure who took notes from the different teams. Who wants to take a lead? For a fancy edible? Anybody? How many? Oh my God, I got everybody waking up. It's only because you're anti those, but anybody want to take the lead and show? Come on, please. 2 edibles. 2 edibles and a shot. Oh, you're driving me crazy. 3 edibles and 2 shots. And a B for the class. Matthew, thank you. Can you share? Yeah. He said, Professor, I don't need an edible or 2 to do it. We know he's lying, don't we?
So my group did not have a great time with the drawing feature, so we wrote out our answers.
So, oh.
But we do have answers, even though they're written. Should I just go down the list?
Yeah, you're in control.
Okay.
And can you use your headphones so you can actually talk? Oh.
Can you not hear me?
No.
Well.
You can hear him on Zoom? Okay.
Okay, great.
I'll just do the default one.
So we have, for the first one, a doctor can be scheduled for many, but may not have any scheduled at all. So for that, we thought the doctor could be 0 or 1, either doesn't have something scheduled or does, but the appointments themselves would be 1 or many because it could be up to any amount of appointments for that one doctor.
So, interrupt you. So thinking that one through, right? The reason, unless we told you that it was, you know, a team of physicians, right? You would only want 1 physician and 1 appointment. Otherwise, just like with a patient, you're going to have collision, right? So we have 2 doctors. I'm a dermatologist and you're a urologist, and the patient needs a pulmonary care. We're going to have the wrong specialty, right? And so that's why you have to think about min and max. The 0 allows you to reflect that it's an open period to be booked, but once it's booked, nobody else can go in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. The next one, so each appointment is scheduled with exactly 1 doctor. So for any given appointment, that is 1 appointment, so 1 and only 1, and then there is 1 doctor for that appointment.
Right.
So also 1 and only 1. A patient can schedule 1 or more appointments. They can do as many as they want. So that would be 1 or many, and the appointments themselves are also 1 or
Can I
many.
stop you for a minute?
Yes.
So I got a couple of questions. Even though the rule said 1 or many, could I realistically reflect a 0? Which means, let's think this through. Like, you guys, if you're on campus, you go to student help if you have an issue, right? So you're in the database, and you've never scheduled an appointment, but you have the ability to schedule, that would be the 0, right?
Yeah.
Good.
So we could do that if we wanted. What's next? I think it was was this the one we were on? Appointment must generate exactly 1 bill, and a bill is generated by only 1 appointment. You know, you're only going to have 1 bill for an appointment. You're only going to have 1 appointment for 1 bill. So both of those would be 1 and only 1. For a payment that's applied to a bill, but you could have 1 bill paid off over time. So that payment is 1 and only 1 because it can only be applied to a given bill. But for the bill, if you paid a bit in 1 month, a bit in the next, it could be 1 or many.
So if you're designing an entity relationship diagram and you have some sort of payment system, right? There's a billing.
Yeah.
Whether it's real time or it's an invoice, you always want to have the 0, which means what? Somebody is still an accounts receivable, and you want to track the length of time that bill is late, right? Because eventually you're going to charge fees. That's why the 0. And you're going to want to allow many, because as a business, even though it's not great, we'll take partial payments, right? We may tack on interest. That's why conceptually when you think through, you would do it that way.
So it would be 0 or many for the bill. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Right. So even if they haven't paid, we're still keeping track. So 0 or many. A bill can be outstanding, having nothing yet paid on it at all. That's what we just mentioned. So that's also bill is 0 or many. A patient can make many payments, but a single payment is made by only one patient.
Right, and the reason why, and again, it's kind of like a puzzle, it's a logic rule, it's like, oh, a lot of gobbledygook, but you want to make sure that you have uniqueness so that when a patient does submit payment, it has a unique invoice number so that it goes against that patient's record, right? Otherwise, Matt makes a payment and it goes against my medical record. He's not going to get credit, and there's no way to determine that. So that's why you want to make sure that that is a unique relationship.
Right. So that's why the patient would be zero many, but the payment itself is one and only one. Some patients are insured by an insurance company. If they are insured, they can only carry insurance with one company. So you can only have one carrier at a time. You're either insured or you're not. That's a 0 or 1. An insurance company can have many patients carry their policies. So from the company's side, they might have thousands. So it would be one or many. I don't think it would be 0 unless they're a really bad insurance company. And then for patients that carry insurance, the insurance company will make payments. Each single payment is made by exactly one insurance company. So again, for the carriers, company makes a payment, one and only one, because it's a single payment for that single company.
Okay, I'm going to take over again.
Yeah.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
So in the slide deck, I put what would be one answer approach. In some of these, you could have different. So in mine, this is how I drew it out, right? A doctor is assigned to 0 or many appointments. Appointment has one and only one doctor. I did say you could put a 0, meaning I have an appointment, right? But I haven't had a doctor assigned. I'm saying you don't have to get that fancy. You got to think it through, right? Appointment to patient, right? You could have a 0, meaning I'm in the database as a subscriber, like student to student health. That would be a 0. And the many means, you can go in as many times for a checkup. In this particular case, it said 1, right? Again, you can always document your assumption. I think the only one that sometimes gets people tripped up is patient and insurance, right? So logically, you may have no insurance, right? You're not covered. You're over 25 and now you're on your own, but you have no job and you don't have mass health or whatever. Or you can have one policy. Generally, you don't have many policies unless you're like on Medicare, then you can have a plan B or a plan C. So if that were the case, this here would be a many. But basically, this was pretty easy. Any questions on this? So hopefully you guys kind of did the drawings. All right. So I'm now going to boot up today's lecture because we're making great time. So you don't have to use Lucidchart in this class for the breakout. For the homework, if you can do it, I would prefer because it's easier to read. But if you have technology issues or just learning how to use the system, you can handwrite it and submit a picture and that would be fine. When you do the teamwork and you have to do design work, you're going to have to use Lucidchart. So somebody's going to have to be skilled with it. I suggest you use it. It's great for your resume. But anyways, we're going to do another breakout. And this time, you're going to need to draw this out. So please draw it out. You can use a Sketchpad or Word or whatever, and then I'm going to ask somebody please to volunteer. So it's in today's lecture slides, okay? So, see you later. Good, I put you back in the same rooms, right?
Yeah, we're missing someone there. Put Jasmine in the waiting room. I said you put Jasmine in the waiting room.
I'm really hard of hearing.
I said you put Jasmine in the waiting room.
Oh.
And then
Is it a cardio hypertrophy class? Or not?
so fitness class can have one of them. That's like class. So I guess that's for the day. True.
Wait, what slides are we on again? Okay. like I think that like for a fitness class, like a room could only have one fitness class. Why would a room have multiple fitness classes? Why would a room have multiple fitness classes? A room should have only one fitness class.
Now think of it as a facility versus a time period.
Oh yeah, okay, so I know what you're saying, but I think it's more along the lines of like in a specific time frame when you have a room, when you use a room cannot be split into different fitness classes. Otherwise, it's gonna be like 5 fitness instructors just screaming at each other. So.
I could be asking, can you give me like what's the example you're thinking of?
That's cool.
So like where it's zero or many rooms to one or many classes. So I don't think it would be like a differential for that.
Yeah, look good.
There's the slide.
So customer.
So 0 or 1 is like a circle, a line, and then 1 or many is a line, and then what looks like the arrow going in opposite direction. I think that just means
Yeah. That's true. Customer. Yeah. Yeah, you could just want those like big gym people that just never go.
yeah. So for like for the room, since it doesn't have
No. I see.
not where it is 0 or many.
And I guess a fitness class could have
Or the room side, and then on the class side, it can be one or many classes assigned to.
Wait, Barry, are you in Cal?
So it's like you get 0 or many on the room side, and then 1 or many.
Are you in California? Yeah. Oh, okay. I thought you'd be in California or fitness classes you attended, so because the West Coast is better. No, because the West Coast is better with fitness classes and stuff, so I thought you're in California. Oh, I see. Looks great, bro. Looking good. Man, Mary is really out of it right now. That was very forced. I love that. Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Okay, it looks like everybody's back. Oops, did I just spook? Oops. All right, does somebody want to share their drawing with the class? I can get everybody back. Ah, there you go. Anybody want to share? Oh, come on. Can't be this shy. You know, you got me as a professor. Do I cold call? Let's see. Don't hate me. Catherine Davis, did your team have a drawing?
We weren't able to finish in time.
You get on mute?
Am I on mute?
No, you're not on mute. I don't think he has a speaker on.
Oh, okay.
Oh, we can call it a technology issue. Can you
Yeah.
share? Don't have the speaker on? Can you hear me now? Catherine, can you try?
Can you hear me?
Oh. How come? Okay, just hold on 1 second. Sorry about that. You see it? Right, goof.
Can someone say something?
Catherine, can you speak now?
Yeah, can you hear me?
No. Well, you're getting 5 edibles sent your way. You can give them away. Try now.
Can you hear me?
Is the speaker for like the panel clicking? The
Yeah,
sound?
the speaker on. Yeah, it's on.
It's on. Well, we have a little bit of it. Oh, because you guys can't hear me.
We can hear you.
Oh, I just heard you.
Oh, you can hear us? Okay.
God, it was like a voice from heaven.
Going back to your question though, unfortunately my group was not able to finish on time.
Okay, I respect the honesty. How about if I share my screen? Thank you. All right, this is, again, one possible answer. Sometimes you can have multiple answers, right? So the biggest issue that I find when people used to do this for homework, is how they handled room. Remember, room is a physical location, and think about like the few of us that are in KCB 101. It has the ability throughout the school day to host many different classes, right? But once a class has been assigned to the room, I shouldn't be in any other room. And so that's why the best way to do it is one and only one. So IS-223 is assigned to KCB 101, right? Relationship is 101, one-to-one. But KCB 101 can house IS-223, OB-221, AC-221, and so it's one-to-many. The customer to fitness class, right? Think about it.
Sometimes I amaze myself.
You know, things don't talk, and then all of a sudden my iPad started talking. Did you guys hear that? Oh, it's been one of those days. Catherine, thank you for your voice from heaven. Now Siri's talking to me. So, fitness class to customer. You might sign up to join the gym, right? You pay your membership, but you haven't taken anything. And so that's why that 0 reflects, hey, I'm a customer, I just haven't done anything. If you put a 1 there, I would be okay as well. But a 0 means that I have the ability in a database design, if I see no transactions for a month or 2, I can automatically say, if customer transaction equals 0, generate an email invite to register, right? I want your money. And a customer obviously can take many fitness classes. At a fitness class, you could have put a 0 there, which means it's offered, but nobody signed up for it. Kind of like when you're doing your registration, right? A section is offered. If nobody signs up, it's canceled or low attendance. So a 0 or 1 would have been good there. Again, a fitness class, unless your concept is I'm doing team teaching, so I do, fitness training and aerobics as part of the same session, and so I'm dealing with a team of 2. Generally, you don't do that. That's why it's 1 and only 1. And then instructor to fitness class, I can teach many. You could have put a 0 in there, meaning I'm in the system, I haven't been assigned yet. So it depends on the assumption there, but a 0 or 1 usually is correct. Questions? Anybody have questions? This is pretty easy when you, right? To me, it's like a jigsaw puzzle, right? We use all this gobbledygook for words, entities, and attributes and cardinalities. But if you really think about it, you're just putting together a puzzle, right? And if you think it through logic, it makes a lot of sense. Alan.
So if we have it set up, because I'm sure there must be like multiple ways to do this, but if we had it set up so there was like an extra step if you wanted to filter through things, would that necessarily be wrong?
It's not wrong, but like sometimes you put in a relationship that doesn't make sense, that would be wrong. A min and a max, I'm okay with. Sometimes you reflect as an entity what I would consider the transaction detail, or in this case, it would be like enrollment, right? That really comes in database design. Enrollment, subscription is not really an entity. It's a result of the many-to-many transaction. So does that make sense? So when you guys do the ERD homework, that's not due next Tuesday if you haven't already done it, you wouldn't do a transaction table, right? Because, entity, because that's detail. That's as the system is rolling, people are buying things or renting things or reserving or classes beginning to fill up, right? So just keep that in mind. Other questions? Okay, so just to go over this one last time and then we're done. For the exam, because I always get these questions, you're not going to draw ERDs. I will not give you a case to draw because, quite honestly, with all the technology challenges everybody's having, it would take too much time to boot up Lucidchart or do a picture or whatever. So I'm not stressing people out. We're also not going to do Microsoft Access, and that's consistent in all of the sections. So that's my rule, right? What I will do is give you a small 4 or 5 sentence case that says, read this, and now tell me what are the relationships, and it would be a multiple choice or short answer, okay? I have found that these type of cases won't be the same I've used before. 8 out of 10 get them perfect. So I'm aiming for 10 out of 10 if I can. Anything else? All right, so if you can, on Thursday, we're going to start Microsoft Access. If you haven't downloaded either the VM or if you're a Windows user, the Microsoft Access client, you probably should do it. My remote students that are asynchronous, if you're having a problem doing the VM because of technology challenges, just email me. I have all of the exercises in paper as well as electronic, and I'll make sure that you still learn the material, but you can do it on paper rather than struggle with, disconnecting or a VPN issue or those type of things, okay? So, I'll see you all on Thursday. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good day, Professor.
Professor?
Thank you.
Professor?
Yes.
Do you still have your office hour today?
Yes, I'm in my office hours at 6:30.
Okay, I'll see you then.
Okay. Bye.